Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. Welcome back to Swaroop IT Solutions. This is the third video for the SQL 2022 automated installation through PowerShell. So, this is the technical video series, video number 3. So, welcome to Swaroop IT Solutions. Now, in this video, we will learn how to automate and install SQL 2022 through PowerShell. So let's start. So in this particular video procedure, we will learn following major steps. So the title is Automating SQL 2022 Installation through PowerShell, through which first we will be creating an automated SQL installation .inf file script, then installing SQL 2022 through PowerShell using automated .inf file, and third step is installing SQL Management Studio through PowerShell, and fourth will be re-verifying our SQL 2022 installation through SQL Management Studio. So steps what we have already completed as part of previous videos: creating a fresh Windows 2022 server virtual machine as SQL 2022, which we have already done. Then configuring Windows 2022 server with appropriate host name, that is SQL 2022, then appropriate IP address and a local user called SQL admin with admin access. This is also we have completed. And then installing .NET 3.5 and ASP.NET 4.8 on Windows Server 2022 VM. So we will just re-verify all these 3 steps in a quick mode. So this is my SQL 2022 virtual machine, and if I am opening the command prompt, currently I have logged in with SQL admin and my host name is SQL 2022. Okay, and the last verification is we will just verify through server manager. Just clicking next, and if I am going back just to show you the IP address also, 10.11.200, this is the local IP address what we have given to this machine already, and we have already installed 2 features, .NET Framework 3.5 and .NET Framework 4.8. Now these steps I have covered in my previous videos, how to do it practically, so I am not repeating those ones. Mind you, this is a fresh machine. Okay, this is not the same machine what I have used in the previous videos. This is a fresh machine. Okay, although the host name, the IP address are same, but this is a fresh machine. It is not installed with any kind of an additional software or something like that. So if I am going to control panel, just to show you, it's a fresh machine. If I am going to programs and features, you can see there is nothing installed rather than a default Microsoft Edge. Okay, so this is a fresh machine for us. So coming back to our PPT, so we have already completed those steps and we have just verified it practically. The last step is downloading the latest version of your latest SQL Management Studio, that is version 22.2. That is also we have already completed, okay, in the previous video. So I will be not showing you that particular step how to download it. You can refer to my previous videos, or else you can download it from the internet directly. But remember, please download the latest version, which is 20.2 as of today. Okay. So moving on to the next step, what are the prerequisites for this particular video lab setup? So of course Windows 2022 Server OS ISO that we have already used for installing our 2022 virtual machine, SQL 2022 virtual machine. Second prerequisite is virtual or physical machine with at least 16 GB or 24 GB RAM, recommended one. So that also we have completed. Our SQL 2022 virtual machine, what we have just seen, is with the 24 GB RAM. Third prerequisite, of course, SQL 2022 Server RTM ISO or a DVD drive. That also we have already prepared in our previous video, but we will use it as an RTM ISO in the further practical steps. So that is also within us. That is also in handy with us as of now. And the next one is the latest SQL Management Studio. That is also we have already downloaded. So that will also I will get a copy into SQL 2022 server. So what will be our lab setup for this particular video? So it's the same lab setup what we have covered in the previous video also. So the first machine of course is our Windows 2022 base, which is running on Windows 2022 data center server operating system. Role will be Hyper-V host. It's a physical machine. It is having 1 TB hard disk, latest i7 CPU with VTX technology and 128 GB RAM. Its local IP is 10.1100 and the system model is physical server or a workstation. Second machine what we have just verified 5 minutes back, it's a virtual machine what we have just created as a fresh VM. Its host name is SQL2022 SQL 2022 and then it is running on Windows 2022 data center server. Its role will be SQL server. It's a virtual machine and its hardware configuration is 100 GB VSDX, one virtual CPU and then 24 GB of RAM. Its local IP will be 10.11.200 and it's a virtual machine. So we'll be doing our practicals, most of our practicals on this machine, SQL 2022. Okay. So let's move on to our step number 1. So on SQL 2022 virtual machine settings, map SQL 2022 RTM ISO. So I will go back to my Hyper-V manager. This is my SQL 2022 virtual machine. I will go to the settings and on the DVD drive click on browse and I will go to the path where my SQL server RTM ISO is there, SQL 2022 and then SQL RTM. Okay, it is already equipped with CU15. How to equip with CU15 I have already covered in the previous video. Okay, so I am using the same RTM ISO. We'll say apply. Okay. Next step is in SQL 2022 virtual machine, create a local folder called SQL2022 and copy the whole SQL 2022 application ISO content in it. So I will go to my SQL 2022 machine. I will go to C drive and I will create a fresh folder called SQL2022. Okay, and then I need to copy the whole content of my ISO. This is my SQL RTM ISO. So I will say Ctrl A, Ctrl C and I will go back to my SQL 2022 and I will copy it. This will take a minute or so. Now this has been copied. So we have completed our step number 2. Next step is now we need to create a INI file. We need to extract the INI file. How to do that? So first we need to run the manual setup up to the install step. So what I will do is, through SQL2022 server, Windows Explorer, start the SQL server setup through SQL2022 setup.exe. Okay. So I will go back to this machine, and this is where we have already copied our content. See SQL2022. So I will start the setup. Say yes. Okay. Next step is, once SQL setup wizard starts, click on installation and new SQL server standalone installation. So I'll click on installation and new SQL server standalone installation. So it will just start our setup. By the time it is starting, we'll move on to the next step. So next step is, once SQL2022 installation wizard starts, on edition window select your SQL edition, product key if you are having one, and license acceptance, and click next. Just maximize this. As of now we are using evaluation version. You can choose the product key if you are having the one. I will choose evaluation version and I will say next. I'm just going back just to explain one more step. If you are selecting your product key, you have to select your licensing terms also, whatever the license you may obtain from the Microsoft. So as of now we are using free edition evaluation, so no, it is disabled. So free edition evaluation, next. Moving on to the next step. So on licensing terms, accept this statement and click next. So I will accept this statement and click next. So next is, on Microsoft Update Wizard, click next. So on Microsoft Update Wizard, I will say next. On product updates, click next. On product updates, we don't need to include anything as of now, so I will say next. So setup will continue its process of setup provision. On Azure extension for SQL Server, deselect the option and click next. So as of now, before going to the Azure extension, it is giving me some kind of an warning of Windows Firewall. So I will just rectify this warning. Windows Firewall is on for this machine because this is a fresh machine what we have built. So I will go to Control Panel, I will go to Windows Defender Firewall and I will turn off the firewall. Say OK, close this and rerun this. Now it will go to the next step automatically. So Azure extension. So what we have in on Azure extension for SQL Server, deselect the option and click next. So we need to deselect this option. And I will say next. Now next step is where we need to select our features. So on feature selection, select your preferable SQL features to install and click next. Now I am selecting very basic database engine service feature for this lab setup. If you are sure that which all features you require, you can select all of them or some of them as you required and you can say next. Next step is on instance configuration, keep default instance and click next. So I will not change anything over here. Default instance, I will say next. Next step is on server configuration, verify all the values and click next. So as of now I am not changing anything over here for service accounts as well as the collation. If you are a database administrator, you can select whatever collation you may require, but as of now I am not changing the default values. I will say next. Now next step is on database engine configuration, click on add current user and click next. So on database engine configuration, we need to add a user which will be having a full access for your database. So I will say add current user, so it will add my SQL admin and I will say next. And now comes the important steps. So on ready to install, verify the summary and don't click install. Okay, we don't want to click on install because it will install our SQL server manually. That's a simple step, but we don't want to install our SQL server manually. So I will not say install over here. Okay, again I am telling you, don't click on install over here. So what will be our next step? If we don't require to click on install, what will be our next step? We'll see. So on ready to install wizard, copy the configuration file path up to the folder level. What does that mean? I will come back to my system over here. Now you can see over here, it is showing the configuration file path over here. So whatever we have selected up to this option, up to this, whatever features I have selected, whatever options I have clicked, whatever the user I have added, everything it has saved in a configuration file. Okay, so I need to copy this configuration file. So how to copy this? I will just copy the path up to the folder level. Don't copy this ini file. Okay, up to the folder level I will copy this path. Okay, and what will be our next step? See, open the copied folder path through Windows Explorer or through run option. So we have already copied. I will copy it one more time just to show you. Again, copy, and I will go to run. I will paste it and I will say enter. So you can see over here in this path, it has saved this configuration file. Now this is a kind of an temporary path. Okay, if I am clicking install over here, it will install the SQL server manually and this path will be automatically getting vanished after the installation process finishes, but I don't want that. So what I will do is I will copy this configuration file. Okay, copy. That will be our next step. So example path for SQL configuration file I have just written down. It will be like C program files, Microsoft SQL Server, then a variable path like 160, then setup bootstrap log, and into that it will create the folder of a particular date stamp and then your configuration file.ini. So as of now it is this path. Okay, it is showing the today's date. This is the today's date on a reverse way, 2nd of November 2024, and then one random folder. Inside that this configuration file is there. Okay, now let's see what could be our next step. So copy the configuration file.ini file from the above path and paste it in C drive SQL2022 folder. Okay, so what I will do is I will copy this path and I will copy this particular file. Okay, this is the configuration file .ini. So I will copy this file, and if I am enabling the extensions of it, it's an ini file, okay, information file. I will say copy and close this, and I will go to SQL2022 and I will paste it over here. Okay, so this is our main folder from where we have launched our setup. So I have just copied this configuration file.ini, this particular folder. Okay, I hope this step is clear to you because this is important. Now next step is we need to cancel our SQL2022 server manual setup. So we will cancel our SQL2022 manual setup over here. Cancel and yes. Okay. And I will close this one also. Next is we need to open that particular ini file through notepad what we have just copied. So I will say open. It will automatically open in notepad only. Okay, so this is our SQL2022 configuration file. Okay, now we need to make some changes to this file in order to get it ready for our automated installation. For our SQL2022 automated installation, we need to add some lines, we need to change some of the options. Otherwise, the automated installation will not happen and it will ask for the inputs in between. Okay, we don't require that. We require a fully automated ini file. Okay. So I will minimize this and let's see what are the lines we need to add, what are the changes we need to make to our configuration file.ini file. Okay, so next step is we need to add or change the following lines in configuration file.ini file. So our line number 1, which we need to add additionally. Okay, so there are 3 lines what we need to change, but it is on a same context or same paragraph. Okay, so this will be our first line, colon and then by specifying up to the use. Second line will be accepting our Python licensing terms is equal to true, and third line will be our accepting our SQL service licensing terms is equal to 2. Why we need to add those lines? Because then the SQL setup will not ask for those manual inputs for accepting our licensing and terms. So what I am doing is I am going back to my main machine over here and I am copying these 3 lines manually over here directly so that I don't have to type it. I have already copied it in my PPT, and I am going back to my SQL2022 machine, and these lines I need to add after the options. You can see over here, after the options I need to add. So press 2 times enter and just say Ctrl V. So you can see over here, just removing extra space. So see over here, up to this part whatever I have highlighted I have added as an extra. Okay, so these are the 3 lines. Actually it's a 1 line only, but let's say it's 3 lines I need to add after the options. So this is the first change what we need to do in our configuration file. Okay, let's move on to the next step. Couple of more changes we need to do. So this is step number 20. Now step number 20 continues. We need to add or change the following lines in configuration file.ini file. So what will be our line number 2 or the change number 2? We need to change our quiet mode from false to true. because we need to install our SQL in a quiet mode, non-interactive mode. So for that non-interactive mode, we need to change our quiet mode from false to true. By default it is false, so I am just changing it. You can see over here, true. Okay, this is the second change. First change is this, from this option up to this. This is the first change, and second is quiet is equal to true. Okay, this is the second change. Let's go back to our PPT. And the third and the final change, we need to change our UI mode is equal to normal, but you will see over here there is a semicolon added over here. So if I am removing this semicolon, the UI mode will run as a normal mode, but if I am making a semicolon over here, it will disable this option, the whole option. So I need to disable this option because we don't require UI mode to run in a normal mode. Okay, so I will make one semicolon. Now semicolon means whatever line next to that semicolon will not get executed, will not run. Okay, so I am just adding one semicolon over here. Okay, next, step number 21, save the configuration file .ini file. Okay, so I am now saving this file. Simple save, or you can say Control S also. Okay, closing this. You can see over here it is showing the latest time. Okay, so it has been saved. One more time I am opening this file and showing you the changes what we have done, because this is very important for the automated installation. So I am opening this. So what we have done, after the options line we have added these 3 lines. Okay, now this is the title kind of a thing, that by specifying this parameter what you are doing, you are accepting the Python and server terms and regulations. So here you can see there is no semicolon. That means these lines, these 2 lines will get executed. Okay, so I accept the Python terms and I accept the SQL licensing terms. True. So both licensing term it will accept. This is the first change. Next change what we have done, we have made our quiet mode from false to true, because we need to run our SQL installation in a quiet mode. And third thing, our user interface mode we need to disable, because we don't require any kind of a window coming while our SQL2022 installation is going on. So UI mode, we are actually disabling this particular whole line by putting a semicolon just before this line. This is the third change what we have done. Okay, and we have saved this file. Okay, now let's move on to the next step. Next step is we need to create a new folder called SQL Management Studio and copy the SQL Management Studio executable SSMS setup enu.exe in it. Now what I have done is, instead of going for the SQL Management Studio separately, I am just including it in a same folder for our convenience purpose. So what I am doing is over here, coming back to SQL2022 server and SQL2022 CSQL2022 folder, I am directly creating a new folder called SQL underscore management underscore studio. Why I am putting an underscore over here, I will give you the reason in a some time why I have not put in a space over here. I will just give you a reason. Okay, but before that let's execute our step. So what we need to do is, I will go inside and I will come back to my main machine over here, and I will go to my folder, and here this is SQL Management Studio exe. We'll copy it and paste it over here. Okay, so I am in and all I am just creating a one master folder where my SQL2022 RTM setup files are also there and my management studio is also there. Okay, as I told you earlier, in earlier versions of SQL Server, Microsoft was including Management Studio also within the installation only, but now I don't know why they have made these two options separate. So anyways, I'm making it more simpler for you guys. I've just copied the Management Studio exe file. Okay, so we have completed this particular step. Now next step is we need to create one PowerShell script. So open PowerShell ISC console through SQL2022 system and create a new PowerShell script as shown in sideline figure. Now I have already made this particular script for you guys. I will open that script directly and I will show you what are the options over here. Okay, so what I will do is I will go back to my main machine and I will go to these files. Okay, so these are the two PS1 files, so I'm just copying it straight away and I'm pasting it in our main SQL2022 folder. Okay, now what are those files, why they are required, I will just explain you in a while. So this is the first PowerShell script what I have already created is this one, SQL2022. Okay, so what we will do is we will open our PowerShell ISC as an administrator mode just to make sure that we will having a full access, and from here I will open this particular script. Which script? This one. This is the first one. Okay, now what this script is all about I will just explain to you. Okay, now the first option is our configuration file, so I have made it as d:configuration file.inf file, and second option is the variable option is I need to run one command, that setup.exe/action is equal to install, and the configuration file is our config file. Okay, now why I have specified this D drive, because I am going to create one ISO out of this complete master folder and I am running this particular script from that ISO only, directly from the ISO. Now these steps are completely explained in detail into our PPT. Okay, so don't bother about it, I'm just giving you an idea what we are going to do in next 10 minutes or so. Okay, what I have done, I have created these two scripts. So I'm just explaining the script one more time to you. I have just specified the variable our configuration file. What will be our configuration file path? It is D drive configuration file.inf file. What will be our command? We'll be calling our D drive setup.exe, that is our SQL setup.exe, and then we'll be specifying the action as install, and we'll be specifying our configuration file path will be config file, that is already defined as a variable. Okay, so this is the simple particular script what I have created. Okay, so I'm just closing this script as of now. Let's move on to the next step. Now what this particular note is all about, I have told you that we will be burning out our whole SQL2022 folder in a ISO, and we will map that ISO as our CD-ROM or DVD-ROM. So if your DVD-ROM drive is E drive, let's say, not D drive, so you need to change the option from here, you need to change D to E, whatever your CD-ROM drive folder is there. So you need to make sure that your script is calling the correct drive letter over here. Okay, so as of now our ISO will be D drive only, so I don't need to change anything. Okay, so this is just a small note what I have specified. So next step is save the PowerShell script that we have already done. We have already created that PS1 SQL2022 PS1 and we have copied it also in C SQL2022 folder. Okay, so this is already done. Next is we need to create one more script through which we will be installing our SQL Management Studio through PowerShell only, as shown in sideline figure. So I will just open the second script also, SQL Management Studio, okay, for you guys. So I will directly say edit over here, so it will directly open through ISA. So again, it's a simple script. I have already specified the command. From D drive I am calling up this exe/install management studio. It will install that management studio and it will install in a passive mode and in a quiet mode, so it will not ask for any inputs from our side and it will not restart automatically. It will ask us for the restart at the end of the installation manually. Okay, so this is a simple script for installing SQL Management Studio. Okay, so this is our path. Now if you remember what I have done, I have created a folder SQL Management Studio inside our C SQL2022 folder. You can see over here SQL_management_studio. Why underscore? Because if you are calling a command, then it will not take a space in between this folder, or else you need to specify a upper colon or something like that. So to avoid all those complications, I have just made the folder name as D SQL_management_studio. Okay, so this is the second script what we have already created. Now if you want to see what exactly these scripts are, again I am explaining you in a verbal mode. If you want to see the exact, pause this video on a particular screen, note down all the scripts and you can create this script by your own. It's not a rocket science. You can create line by line. Everything you can create from your side, and I will recommend to create from your own hand. Okay, then only you will learn the PowerShell. It's a simple script nevertheless. So I'm just closing this one. So second script also we have already created. So same note what we have already covered. For this script also you need to change the drive letter D drive in our case according to your CD-ROM drive, because we are actually running this particular scripts from our ISO, from our CD-ROM drive. So if your CD-ROM drive is E drive, then you need to change the script as E drive. Here it is D drive. Okay. So next step is save this second script also as an SQL Management Studio.ps1 in CSQL2022 folder. This is also we have already done. We have copied this script on CSQL2022 folder. Now next step is like optional one, that we need to install one third party ISO creation tool like PowerISO or Ultra ISO. For this labs setup I am using Ultra ISO. Okay, so I am going back to my main machine. I'm going back to my imaging tools, Ultra ISO. I'm just copying it from here, just copying it, and I'm just installing it on my SQL2022 machine. Okay, it's a straight away simple procedure. So accept, next, next, default options, next, and install. So now I'm just clicking, I'm just deselecting, I will launch it manually. I will say just finish. So Ultra ISO we have just installed on our SQL 2022 machine. So I'm opening Ultra ISO manually. Okay, so this is my Ultra ISO wizard. Coming back to the next step. So next step is open the Ultra ISO wizard that we have already done. And next is we need to copy or drag the SQL 2022 folder's whole content in Ultra ISO's main window. Okay, so I'm coming back to my main SQL 2022 machine, and here is our SQL 2022 folder. So what I'm doing is selecting everything, Control A, just dragging it on my main window of Ultra ISO. Okay, next is click on the save icon of Ultra ISO wizard. So I will click on the save. Now it will ask me to save the ISO file. So provide an appropriate name to your ISO and save it to your preferable location. So I'm just giving the ISO name as simple SQL 2022. I will go to desktop and I will say save. So it has saved my ISO file over here as an SQL 2022. So this is our ISO, which is containing the whole RTM content as well as our configuration file as well as our PowerShell scripts. Everything is inside that ISO. Okay, let's move on to the next step. So next step is copy the newly created SQL 2022 ISO to main Windows 2022 base system. Okay, so what I'm doing is just copying it straight away, coming back to my main machine over here. I will say paste. Okay, so I'm just copying this ISO directly on my main machine. So our SQL 2022 ISO file got copied on our main system, that is our main Hyper-V host physical machine. Okay, let's move on to the next step. So map the SQL 2022 ISO on SQL 2022 VM. Okay, so what I will do is I will go back to my Hyper-V console and I will say settings, go to the settings of SQL 2022 virtual machine, DVD drive, click on browse, and now go to desktop and the ISO what we have copied, I will just map it. I will say apply, say OK. Okay, let's move on to the next step. So next step is through SQL 2022 system, open PowerShell ISC admin console and open the SQL 2022 PS1 file through it. So this is my SQL 2022 virtual machine. Close this. I will open the PowerShell ISC console first of all through admin, run as an admin. I will say yes, and through this I will go to my D drive, which is our ISO which we have just mapped, right? And I will open the SQL 2022 PS1 script. Okay, now next step is once SQL 2022 PS1 file opens in PowerShell ISC console, execute the script. Okay, so now we are running the script for our SQL 2022 automated installation through PowerShell. Okay, so it should not ask us for any kind of an input. Let's see if our configuration file, what we have done, the changes, what we have made, the lines, additions and all, everything is okay. So our SQL 2022 should get installed automatically. So I am just executing this particular script. So you can see over here the SQL Server installation started successfully. Okay, now it has not given us any error as of now. That means it should be installing our SQL 2022 in an automated way in background. Okay, so let it install. What I have specified over here is 900 buffer time. That means around about 15 minutes. After 15 minutes it will give us confirmation that the SQL Server installation completed successfully, and after that it will ask us for restart the machine manually. Okay, so let it complete this particular step. I am pausing this video. Once it is showing the restart window confirmation, I will come back to you and we will proceed with the next step. Okay, so as of now in the background this SQL 2022 installation is happening in an automated way. Okay, you can see over here the cursor is blinking. That means it is installing SQL 2022 in the background through PowerShell without any user interaction, and it is referring to our configuration file. So our configuration file is this. I hope I am clear with the concept. So let it install in the background. Once it is asking us for restart, I will restart this particular video. As of now I am pausing this video. It will take 10 minutes or so to complete the installation. Okay, so as you can see on the screen now, this SQL installation has just completed. We have started around 357, 358, and after 15 minutes it has completed, because I have given this buffer time as 15 minutes. Now it may be entirely possible that in the background SQL installation has been completed much more earlier, but to be on a safer side, some systems will take 10 minutes, some system will take 8 minutes, some system will take even 20 minutes. So based upon that you need to give a buffer time in our script. Okay, so I know on my system it will take 10 to 12 minutes, so I have just given 15 minutes. Okay, so now it has completed our installation, and you can see over here the last line is restarting your system after SQL Server installation. Okay, so we have just completed this one. I will say yes to all. So it will restart this system. After the restart we will move on to the next step. Okay, so our SQL 2022 server installation has been completed. Let's move on to the next step. So this particular step we have already completed. SQL 2022 installation has started in a quiet mode also, and in some time once SQL 2022 installation finishes, script should give you a confirmation message and will ask for a system reboot. So yes to all. This is also we have completed. Okay, so we have restarted our machine also. So we have already done this. Click on yes to all also, and reboot this system also has been completed. Now next step is we need to run the second script. So once rebooted, open the D drive SQL Server Management Studio.ps1 file through SQL 2022 Systems PowerShell ISC Admin Console. Okay, so go back to my SQL 2022. I will go back to the Windows Explorer, the D drive, and I will say right click and edit. Can directly open it this thing. Let's close the previous one because we have rebooted. And now this is the second script what we need to execute. So through this second script we will be installing our Management Studio through PowerShell. So next step is, once SQL Server Management Studio PS1 file opens in PowerShell ISC console, execute this script to install our SQL Management Studio. So I am directly executing it now. Let's see. You can see over here it is just asking for the UAC confirmation, and now our SQL Management Studio also is getting installed in a quiet mode. You can see over here I have not put in any next or install option. It is automatically taking this as in quiet mode, although it is showing the primary console but no input required. So it is installing our SQL Management Studio. Let it install. It will again take some time, 10 to 12 minutes. So after 15 minutes, I have given the buffer time as 15 minutes for this one also. After 15 minutes, it will ask for the restart. So I will come back to you with this one. Okay, so let it install in the background. I will come back to you once this installation gets completed. So welcome back. So as you can see, our SQL Management Studio installation also got completed. It is asking us for restarting the machine. So I will click on yes to all. Okay, following error privilege not held, so that's fine because we have not started it with the admin access. That's fine. So I'm just closing it and just restarting it manually. That's not a problem. I will say restart. Once it is restart itself, we will move on to the next step. So we have restarted our SQL2022 machine. Let's move on to the next step. So we have already executed the script and our SQL Management Studio installation also started and it has finished also, right? So we have completed this step. So SQL Management Studio installation started in no interaction mode. It has completed also. Next, it has asked us for the restart also, and we have done that, and we have restarted our SQL2022 virtual machine server also. This is also we have done. We have clicked on yes to all and restarted the machine. Now next step is, once restarted on SQL2022 system, open SQL Server Management Studio through Start menu. So I'll go back to my SQL2022 machine, click on Start SQL Server, and we'll just pin it to the taskbar and open it. Okay, the next step is, through SQL Server Management Studio, select the encryption level as optional and click connect. So I will select this encryption level as optional and I will say connect. So we will now verify our SQL installation. So the first method for verification is, we need to execute one small query. So through SQL Server Management Studio, click on new query and type following query. The query goes like this: select add version and click on execute. So I'll click on new query. Select at version, and I will execute this one. So now you can see over here in the result pane it is showing CU15, SQL Server 2022 RTM CU15. So this is the first verification what we have got using this query, select at version. Okay. So as I said, on the output result pane, verify that the Microsoft SQL Server 2022 is running on RTM mode and on CU15. So you can see over here, if I am just expanding this, SQL Server 2022 RTM CU15. Okay. Let's move on to the next step. Second verification is through SQL Server Management Studio. Right click on server name and click on properties. So I will right click on it and say properties. And verify that the SQL 2022 version should be showing the latest one, which is CU15. So if I am clicking on the version, this particular version, whatever it is showing, 16.0.4145.4, it is referring to the CU15. Now how to map or how to check whether this version is with the CU15, I have already shown in the previous video of my SQL Server Slipstreaming and SQL Server ISO creation videos. Okay, so you can refer to those ones. As of now it is showing the version which is related to CU15, that is Cumulative Update 15. Okay, so this completes our video. Thank you for your time. This is from the Swaroop IT Solutions. If you like this particular video, please share this along with your friends. Please subscribe to this channel. Thank you very much again and have a good day.